Hello everyone and welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan. Thanks for coming to the channel. Okay, call this video Tiny Treasures because we're looking at by far the smallest aquarium in my fish room. And it's a 5-gallon rimless from Aquarium, purchased during one of Petco's sales where it's basically half price. And it has a rimless feature that I like and the price that I love. And here it is sitting at the very bottom of this rack. It was potentially going to be and still could be some sort of a hospital tank, albeit a little small for a quarantine tank. But because I just had open space, however little it is, I couldn't help myself and I started sort of reconcepting what I could do with this tank, inspired by the Wallstad method. I'd been watching a bunch of those videos on YouTube where basically it's a dirted tank and only plants. While this isn't just that, it has the same vibe. Also, what do they call all plant-only aquariums? There's a term for it in the aquascaping nomenclature. I forget. I'm sorry, maybe I'll remember it as I'm talking. But it is a plant-intensive aquarium, but it also has a bunch of shrimp, and it also has 2 different groups of small Coriodoras, not pygmy Coriodoras. These potentially could get 2 inches, but I think the pandas, which are back there, and these gorgeous jet black Corys with the bronze fins, got 3 of each. And from what I know about these 2 particular species, I think this is the Schwartz eye, I think that's what they call it, and the panda, they don't grow as big as your bronze Cory and some others. And so in a 5-gallon tank, at least for the next couple months, these will be fine. And if I have to put all of these in my display tank with the Adelphi Coriodoras, not a problem, happy to do it. I love the black Cory catfish, and I'm gonna get more. They're expensive online and if you see them in stores, but at the swaps, if you've got a breeder, and at the swap I go to, there is one that brings them bagged at a much more reasonable price. You can get them, and swap meets in this hobby are just the funnest thing in the world, right? So that's where those fish came from. And the pandas are ubiquitous, but they're so adorable, they'll never go out of style. I mean, there's just something about them. Something about Cory cats in general. Okay, so there's also a shit ton of shrimp in here, cherry shrimp. I bought 20 online and I just threw them in here with all these plants to help with algae and just to see what would happen, right? Maybe I'll get a robust breeding colony. The group I got were billed as fire red, and for the most part that's exactly what I got, so it's a higher grade. That one has some white and other imperfections, but in general they're big, healthy, like this guy, and 90% or more pure red, and that's beautiful. That's what you want. But there's also a few amanos in here. I wanted to see which plants would grow in a fairly inert substrate. Now there is some aqua soil in the back and at the bottom, but I ran out after about 4 pounds, and maybe not even that, 3 pounds, and I just covered the rest with basically a pea gravel and call it a day. And then I cut all these plants from my fish tank. We've got Ludwigia repens, we've got Rotella indica, we've got Hygrophila pinifida, we've got I think this is Sessiflora, Lemonfolia Sessiflora, a little bit more repens there, although it's so thin up front, I'm not feeling that those 2 stems will grow. There's a crypt that totally melted but now has come back, so don't be discouraged. This crypt had absolutely died back, and now look at it. And even in low amount of soil, if you will, there it is growing. What I used to do in California a lot is I would wrap lava rock with Christmas moss or weeping moss or spike moss, and and put them in my tanks, not just for spawning, but just to kind of have landscaping where you could control the moss a little bit. And so this is, I think, 3 rocks, maybe only even 2, and look at how intense and beautiful that moss is, and yet it's not drifting and getting over anything else. It's just tied with thread on lava rock, and that's it. And I set it in there, put a few tiny plantlets from my Java ferns in and around it, and there you go. Here I took some more Java ferns and crazy glued. That's the ugly crazy glue. It is what it is. At least it kind of matches the pebbles, which is neat. But these are all little Java ferns I pulled from the leaves of my big parent Java ferns in other tanks and anchored it to another piece of lava rock. This is what's ubiquitous in my tanks, and I love how easy it is. I think it's a sage or a chainsword, and here you can see it's already starting to do what it does, which is send out tentacles of death, and if you let it go, ultimately will take over your landscape. It takes time, and it's a high-class problem, but it does happen. Oh, and then finally, this is water sprite, and I planted it as a stem and cut off all the tendrils at the bottom to try to see what would happen if I really treated it as a stem and not the sort of pseudo floating plant that most people use it for. They just sort of throw a ton of it in their tank and let it go from there. And I'm getting an interesting, look at that variegated but tighter leaf structure. It looks a little bit like lettuce as opposed to all frilly, which is how the rest of my water sprite is. I thought that was kind of cool. And it's just one stem planted in, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Maybe not that interesting, but all together you get this sort of English garden effect, a controlled English garden. And I know there's a name for that, and damn it, maybe I'll link it if I can remember. But most of you watching this know what I'm trying to say, and it means not the Wallstead method, which is what inspired this tank, but an aquascaping style that's mostly, if not all, plants, and no wood or rock. And that's what we've got going on in here, save for these 2 moss rock pillows. And then a tiny little sponge filter. I'm actually splitting that air hose with the baby brine shrimp hatchery, which is sort of sitting next to it here on the bottom floor of my rack system. So I wanted to share the tiniest tank in my fish room, a small treasure, if you will. Good things come in small packages. And I'll stop with that. Ciao for now.